Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Sarva Upanishado Gavo Dokta Gopala Nandanaha Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdham Geethamridam Mahat. Namaste to all of you. Today we are going to embark on a very powerful journey to understand about ourselves. But we are going to use Krishna and his bala leelas as a mirror, as an instrument to look at ourselves. The journey, I promise, will be quite exhilarating, and some of us may want to go back to it a few times to get into the depth of this content. To help in that process, there is a attached blog link on the top of this room. Anybody is interested, you could go to that link and dive into the depths of that article. The Srimad Bhagavatam came purely to celebrate Sri Krishna's leelas. No other book goes into the real depths as much as Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course, we have Harivamsam, which is more like an appendix where you find like a recollection and a quick summary of Krishna's life events again. But only in Bhagavatam we get a lot of great details. And what we are going to do when we look at Bhagavatam, one is transported to a ocean of bliss. One cannot help evolve and raise ourselves in our standards of bhakti, and we are enthralled by every single event of Sri Krishna. Especially the bala leelas are so beautiful that you can keep repeating them again and again and again, and still you will never get satiation that I have heard it enough. You always want to say, okay, one more time. So we are going to park that temptation of getting dissolved in this ocean of bhakti and bliss. As one looks at Krishna's life events, when we see that Krishna is stealing the butter, in reality he is stealing the butter of our Jivatma, and our jnana takes a different level. So what we are going to do in today's special exercise, we are going to look at Krishna in a completely different light. His events, we are going to quickly recall. I'll try my best to keep it as short as possible because we are going to have a whole list of asuras to study today. But we must also understand however long it takes, it will be worth this journey. So, let me begin by offering my obeisance at the lotus feet of that Bala Krishna and ask him to guide me in this talk. So, what we are going to do is we are going to not necessarily go in chronological order, but mostly we are. But we are going to keep a track of all the different asuras that came in contact with Krishna. And then we are going to look at each asura in connection to ourselves. So, in one stroke, you are going to look at the story of Krishna and then you are going to come back to ourselves. Then you are going to go back and forth. It's going to be a different experience. So, I want all of you to get geared for this journey. We will start with Putana, the very first asura who was sent to terminate Krishna's life. Now, we already reviewed in a different lecture why Rama and Krishna's first kill was a woman. We looked into the reasons behind it. We are not going to go that depth. So, what we are going to do is take brief ideas of each asura, what they did and how they did and what happened to them, so that it will be like a quick refresher, because there are folks who may not know all the instances. And then we will come to connecting to our life, current life. So this Krishna story is not set in sometime in the past, it is happening every day in our life. Okay. So Putana was sent to Brindavana. Kamsa sent one by one, he started sending one asura after the other. You could have asked a better question, and if you were the advisor to Kamsa, you could ask why you are sending one asura or rakshasa at a time. Why couldn't you have sent everybody at one time? Maybe Krishna thought he could not have had the game better. So, I don't know. So, this lady is a infant killer specialist. You know, like how some religions have people who blow up others as their speciality. This lady had a speciality. She will select children and put the most potent poison on her breast, and she will feed that child. And she will be so beautiful, she's change her form into such a beautiful person that everybody else is kind of hypnotized. And they can't understand what is happening. And right in front of them, the child dies. Then that's her mission. That's her modus operandi. But instead, what happened in this case, she tries to feed Krishna, who was asleep. He is a few-day-old baby, few-day-old infant. Okay, and she tries to feed, and Krishna tries to. He just woke up from his sleep. The infant, few days old. He wanted to have some milk, but no milk was coming. So he tried it a bit harder. So unfortunately, only her life came. So she died. We'll leave it at that. So what has this got to do with us? Puta word literally means one who is purified. And when you add the word na, it means not. So Putana literally means one who is not purified. But when she came to Krishna, she gets purified. So what is that thing that comes in contact with Krishna that gets purified? Because she got moksha. Remember, she didn't just die. It was not like an assassin operation. Somebody came and somebody terminated the other person. It's not like that, right? Putana literally means avidya. It refers to ignorance. So every jivatma is shrouded with avidya. And since that avidya is the barrier to go closer to Bhagavan, to Paramatma. So what happened? Avidya got a shot. It said, I will go closer to Krishna. And when Avidya tries to do its stunt, when it came in contact with Bhagavan, who is the form of knowledge, it just disappears. Imagine if darkness wants to come and overtake the sun. What will happen? The sun will outshine it. Right? So, the same way, when Putana came, just like our own ignorance, our own avidya comes in contact with jnana, what will happen? It will dispel the darkness. So, how do you do that? In our case, we have been very firmly clear in our minds that only with satsanga and constantly studying shastras that this avidya which you and I harbor can be dispelled. Then remember, every few months this fellow will develop as another specialist and he will send for the mission. So on Krishna's third monthly birthday, Yashoda thought maybe it's a cool time to offer a lot of feast to all the brahmanas, all the villagers. So what she did was she was always carrying this child. Remember, Yashoda was on the bit aged side when she had Krishna. Although she didn't literally give birth to Krishna, she was the one who was raising Krishna. So when she had Krishna, she was so she couldn't keep carrying Krishna all the time. So what she did, she took this infant and there was a cart, this bullock carts kind of thing. So there was a cart, empty cart. And beneath that cart, we don't know if it is a bullock cart or a hand cart, we don't know. But there is a cart. And in that cart, he just was placed and she put some cloth to give some shade to the child and she just left. The child woke up and saw, Mom has left me. Not right. So it started kicking and there was a asura who was kind of hidden in the form of a wheel. His name is Shakatasura. Shakata means wheel, like a cart wheel, right? And then what happened? Suddenly there was like such a big noise that nobody understood what happened. Suddenly one asura was there and he died. And the cart and all the contents on the cart were all thrown here and there. The gopas and gopis who were busy taking care of the atithis and all the people who had come there for the festivity, they had no clue. But lot of kids who were watching around, they said, Krishna kicked that cart. And these people are thinking, how can a 3-month-old baby kick such a big cart? Literally not possible. They didn't give any importance to the other children, but they just thought something bad is happening to this child all the time. So they took care of Krishna. Now, what does Shakatasura refer in our life? Shakatasura refers to our materialism, our focus where we put the materials ahead of our own spiritual needs. So what happens when you put materialism on top of, like Krishna was placed under the cart, right? So when materialism is placed above Krishna or above Paramatma, it doesn't like it. It will do something to mess up that situation and destroy that. That is, how does it do? It will reveal through some acharya. It will reveal through some great Mahatma who comes and fixes that situation. So, we have to understand all these things that what we are looking at the world, like the power, the money, like I am great, this ahankara, this mamakara, that that I-ness and mine-ness, right? They all are putting us trending towards materialism, putting things that everything is, so all of us put what? I as the body. That is also a form of materialism. But when you are approaching a spiritual side, normally it may be okay. But when you are trying to look at spirituality and you look at this materialism, materialism gets shattered into smithereens. So, we cannot give Paramatma or Bhagavan that materialistic outlook or that paint. So, next what happened after a few months later, remember everything happens few months later. We are just telling that as a standard thing. So, it didn't happen all at once. Okay. So, what happened? Another guy came. One day, Yashoda was holding Krishna in her lap. Suddenly, the child was becoming heavier and heavier and heavier, and she was wondering, how come? Maybe my leg fell asleep or something, she thought. And then she thought, okay, I can't hold this child always. Remember, it is very difficult to part with Krishna even as a baby, as an infant, and that too Yashoda. Oh my God, look at her Vatsalya, look at her. Um, she wants to hold on to Krishna all the time. She wants to celebrate Krishna all the time. She wants to treat him all the time with something good or whatever. So she was holding on to the lap, but she couldn't understand how come my leg is falling asleep or why is this child becoming heavier. Now, there was a guy, an asura, a rakshasa. He took the form of a twister, like a tornado, right? Like a twister. So he didn't know exactly the location. He didn't have the GPS coordinates of Krishna, right? So he came and he pummeled the entire village, one house after the other. He is searching house after the other for an entire muhurta. One muhurta is like 48 minutes. So for almost an hour, he is like, and nobody had any visibility. And then he saw Krishna. He lifted him. He wanted to take him to the skies and just drop the child. That was his plan. See, when asuras come with a plan, they think like 10 steps ahead. Only thing is they don't have the connection to dharma, so they have a fundamental flaw that any dharmic person can see their flaw. So when Krishna was lifted, he became heavier and heavier every second. And by the time he went up, he became as heavy as the mountain. Now, when he went to the top, this heavy Krishna, through yoga, he held onto this asura's throat. Now, what happened? He strangled him at that great height, and he came straight down. Suddenly the storm stopped, and this fellow was falling dead as a rock. And Krishna just used that guy's body as his cushion when he fell down. Now Yashoda is searching, where is my child only missing? So all the gopis are like searching, where is Krishna? They are responding to Yashoda. And some gopis saw, hey, you know what, this child is safe on this dead asura. We don't know what happened. So let's see what this means. The word trina in Sanskrita means grass. Avarta means like fast movement, like something like a twister. So this fellow can come like a storm, and he can lift us up like a blade of grass, and he can destroy anything. That's what it means. So what does it mean in our life? All the passions we have, the lust, the anger, not the anger, the rage, when we get the kama and krodha, when it comes, it lifts us, our emotion apart, and it literally rips us. So Trinavarta literally ripped all the land and the occupants, right? So same way, in our life also, these emotions come from nowhere and they rip us apart. If you don't believe me, go and look at the last time when you were overwhelmed by an emotion of any sort, whether it is deep sorrow, whether it is lust, whether it is greed, or whether it is any of those emotions, or rage, you completely lose control of your buddhi. Now, how did Krishna overwhelm that guy? He became heavier. So, what is the message here for you and me? That jnana is heavier than the emotion. That jnana can pull the emotions down and bring it down to earth. Otherwise, those emotions will rip us apart. And those emotions can have deep rooted connections. They connect to the depths of our thoughts, expressed through words and manifest through actions. So, only that jnana, that knowledge alone, can help us overcome those passions. Then another guy came. This fellow was very smart. His name was Vatsasura. He thought, like you want to study your enemies, right? You go and spy them, you understand their weakness, and then you try to attack them. So this fellow said, what is the weakest thing Krishna has? Krishna was probably 2-3 years or probably 4 years, something like that. And he used to take the calves for grazing. Krishna was so much attached to calves. If Krishna was attached more than the cows, it was the calves. He would take the calves and teach them how to drink water. These young calves didn't even know how to drink water. So Krishna would bend onto the small rivulet and he would lap the water. And the calves would look at Krishna and they will mimic. That much love he had for the calves. So what he did was, he disguised himself as a calf. But the minute he became a calf and he came, all the other calves started avoiding him. Like you have a Rakshasa who is eating you, he smells like that. All the animals have that instinct of self-protection, right? So Krishna was very alert. He figured out that this fellow is not a calf and he is an asura. So he pointed that to Balarama, who silently went behind the calf, grabbed its hind legs, whirled it around like a disc, and when he just passed his breath after so much whirling, he dashed him the carcass against a tree. That was the end of Vatsasura. Now, what does Vatsasura refer in our life? The Vatsasura refers to the affectionate attachments. We have passionate attachments, right? It may be an idea, it may be an object, it may be a person, it may be anything. But we are all attached to something or the other. It may be our family, maybe husband, maybe wife, maybe children, grandchildren, something, or maybe an idea. Hey, I want to make something happen. Now, these lovey-dovey things, like the young, lovable calf, or these ideas that are very close to us, are basically perfect backdoors for our vasanas to thrive. these vasanas are growing secretly behind, right under our noses. And these vasanas breed more desire, more attachment, and that's how we get mired in this samsara. So what Krishna did was, he was always alert. So Krishna in this context we should see is like our buddhi. The buddhi that is rooted in dharma. The buddhi that is rooted in dharma will be able to always remain alert. The one that is not alert is not definitely rooted in dharma. So what Bhagavan did, he was rooted in dharma, but the one who is connected to Bhagavan, connected to this jnana, is also getting the free benefit of this wisdom. So Balarama was the one who killed, but it was Krishna's tip-off. So what really happens is, when we give up these attachments and when we stay focused on that connection to Bhagavan, and we know Krishnam Dharmam Sanatanam. Krishnam Dharmam Sanatanam is, Krishna is the only Sanatana Dharma. So when we are connected to that Krishna, that Paramatma, that Parabrahmam, then our constant vichara on it helps us develop viveka, that wisdom. And viveka will help us develop vairagya. Vairagya means the ability to discern what is right, what is wrong. That is viveka. What is vairagya? It tells you the discipline. A combination of viveka and vairagya is required if you want to defeat an attachment. So Krishna refers to the viveka here, and that execution, that connection is there with Balarama, so he is able to smash that attachment. So all we need to do is elevate our buddhi and put it at the feet of Bhagavan. Now we will go to the next asura. Remember, beginning we saw Putana. She had two brothers. The first brother is going to come now. His name is Bakasura. Baka means crane. So you already know what is going to happen. You know all the stories. It's all similar pattern, that what it looks like, but there is a lot of depth to it. There is a lot of rasa to it, lot of bhakti to it. But the thing is that we are trying to keep it in a similar format so that we can keep chugging along. So Krishna and Balarama were having fun with their calves and their friends, and they were playing games, and that's what, I don't know how many of you remember, especially if somebody is older than 40, you will know when you are younger days, you would have had a carefree life in India. Anyone who is born after 90s or whatever, they may not have the same effect. Somebody who is 80s and before, 80s, we have Rajji here who is much older, so they can vouch for this, and also Vijayji. So they can vouch for this, that back in the time when we were all kids, that innocence, that fun, we were doing nothing, careless, no TV, no pressure, nothing. We are just having that, the right word to say is chillax. So one day these Krishna, Balarama and the little boys were having chillax, and that's when suddenly they saw there was a huge crane, monstrous size, huge crane. This crane, I already told, is brother of Putana and obviously a sidekick lackey for Kamsa. Now what happened? He came with this better plan. He said, wait till Krishna comes, and when Krishna comes, just pick him, swallow him, gobble him and kill him. See, all the plans of asuras are all super, except that they pick the wrong target to execute. If you are me, mincemeat. But with Krishna, the game is different. So what happened? The crane immediately tried to peck and swallow Krishna. The minute he swallowed Krishna, Krishna was like feeling like fire. So what will you do if you swallowed fire, especially an object that is so hot? You will spit it. So immediately this fellow spat out Krishna and nothing happened to Krishna. Now he said, like plan B, let's kill him by pecking with the beaks. So he started pecking at Krishna, who caught hold of the two beaks, and as if it was a blade of darba grass, he just ripped them apart. His entire body unzipped, literally, like, and that was the end of Bakasura. Now, what does Bakasura refer to in our life? The Bakasura of our life is hypocrisy, pretentiousness. You see, the crane looks white, and I am talking about a white crane. So usually the white crane is referred as Baka. You will also see Baka in Yaksha Prashna, who is the white crane, not the other colored, right, like the grey heron or those kind of birds, which are also looking very similar. Not so. Now, why it is referred as white? Because white represents Sattva Guna, right? So it is standing on one leg like a rishi, and it is waiting on an unsuspecting target where it can attack, right? So it is covered with falsities, but what it is doing is, it wants to wait for an opportunity and do. And what does hypocrisy do? Exactly the same. What do hypocrites do? Exactly the same. So the hypocrisy, what are they connected with? Hypocrisy is connected with avidya, ajnana, that ignorance, what we saw in Putana, right? So we also have so many false faces, and those false faces need to be dropped off. Unless when you go in front of Bhagavan, you cannot put a pretentious act. Same thing happened with Yudhishthira Yaksha Prashna, right? So when the first thing, later we will try to do a Yaksha Prashna as a series. We will probably, if God willing, we will do that, Krishna's grace. So what happened was, in the Yaksha Prashna, the Yaksha had terminated the lives of the 4 Pandavas. Yudhishthira is coming there and he sees all the 4 Pandavas dead. The Yaksha was till that time a Ashariri. Ashariri means like no body, formless. But for a normal person, it appeared like a Ashariri for Arjuna and Bhima and Nakula and Sakadeva, but it could not hide behind a mask, because Yudhishthira was 10 notches higher when it came to Dharma. So it took the form of a baka, a crane, and still it could not hide. So he said, no, my brothers could not have been killed by a crane. You are just a normal crane. These guys are superheroes. Show me your form, otherwise I will not answer. So it took the form of a yaksha, and then he said, okay, now start telling the answers. So after 124 questions, the yaksha, Yudhishthira says, okay, I have answered your questions. Now he says, what do you want? He says, first to show me yourself. So the thing is that hypocrisy, when it is confronted by jnana, by a higher quality standard, dharma, hypocrisy cannot, it just gets exposed. For example, we had the longest serving party in India. I don't want to take names here. They did so many pretentious things. For decades, they said, we will promise to get you out of poverty. And then all that did not come out till you ran into a person who is not moved by this pettiness. He says, I am just going to be working tirelessly. And this man has turned his entire cabinet into workaholic machines, literally to say. And they want to be sticking to the path of Dharma. And here comes their youngest scion, or rather scions. And they expose their own hypocrisy. If this standard, our standard in our life is risen by Dharma, and when we meet hypocrites, when we meet people with a lower quality, what will happen? We will simply expose their fakery. Okay. The next Asura, this fellow is also a brother to Putana and Bakasura. So this fellow wants revenge. His name is Agasura. Now Agasura took these little Gopa boys were always every day there. They have no school, nothing. All they do was take their calves. Now remember, Krishna is not yet qualified to take the cows. He is still a little boy. He is still only qualified to take only the calves. So Krishna takes all these calves, and one day when they suddenly saw, they keep wandering, right? They go here and there, and they suddenly saw a huge mountain which they have never seen. And they are wondering, what is this mountain? And from a distance, it looked like a python, and with a mouth open. So they couldn't understand what is this. And one of the boys said, let's go inside the cave and explore. Before Krishna could even utter a word, you know how little boys are. They are like very, they make a decision, they just do it, right? Little kids. Like they think they want to cross the road, they don't worry about any cars coming, they just dash out, right? So something like that. So they just bolted in. And then when Krishna found that this is a trick, so he had to now save these boys. So Krishna went inside. This python was waiting all along for Krishna. It had some, people to trade off. So it knew that Krishna would be baited to save these kids. So it waited patiently, and as soon as Krishna came, he suddenly shut the mouth. As soon as Krishna, these kids were probably somewhere in the throat part or whatever. They have not yet gone into the stomach. And it suddenly got so dark. So Krishna immediately became big, and he started expanding. He started expanding and becoming so big and heavy inside that he started crushing the wind passage of this Agasura. And once he started choking, this fellow is totally breathless. He is so breathless that his life force burst open through his head because he was gasping for air. And now what happened? Krishna was brought all the kids out. The interesting thing Bhagavatam says is, this incident was told by the kids to their parents 1 year later. We will see why that incident happened 1 year later. Now, what does this Agasura refer to? The word Aga means papam. I definitely don't want to degrade the word by saying sin. because the sin of the Abrahamic religion is because of their God who was very having a blood pressure moment, and he was so short tempered that he cursed all eternity for all humanity that is unborn. Go figure what kind of God that is. But here agam means papam. What is papam? Anything, any karma you do that is aligned with dharma leads to punyam. Any action that you do against dharma, it leads to papam. So, Agasura means is an embodiment of papa. In Bhagavatam, there is a special mention saying that even devas are trembling when they think of Agasura. He is that powerful. Why? Devas don't want to deal with papa. They know the side effects of it very well. So the papa, what it does, it tries to separate the Jivatma from Paramatma. Just like the papa lured, just like Agasura lured all the kids into deep papa, into the recess of his throat, but it cannot do the same thing to Paramatma. So what happens? We saw that Putana means avidya. Stemming from the avidya rises papa. And it also tries to envelop jnana. But when Bhagavan or jnana or dharma, they come in contact with papa, then the papa gets destroyed completely. So you have a nice roaring fire, and you put anything in it. What will it do? It will grow with that. That roaring forest fire will grow only with that. So Bhagavatam says that not only Putana got moksham, Agasura also got moksham. Why? He got such intimate contact with Bhagavan, with Krishna, that he got moksha right away. He was so vested. Now, we are already said that the kids went back and reported this incident after 1 year. Why that happened? So, the boys came back. They went into the dirty mouth, right? All the stench and the yuck in the mouth were on their body. So they all jumped into the water. They took a nice bath. And after a nice bath, they all, like when you take bath, what happens? You all get hungry, right? So they had nice, everybody had brought some wonderful curd rice. The staple of Krishna's diet, right? So what happened? Krishna saw that one by one the calves started disappearing, and Krishna was saying like, what, all these boys must be tired. So he volunteered. Now he had, Krishna, imagine this small 3-4-year-old cuteness embodiment of cuteness. He had a beautiful flute stuck in his waist. He had a blowhorn. He had a little stick in his left armpit. Okay, he is trying to guide the calves, right? So he won't hit it, but he will be saying, he will be just pointing it, right? So he had a little stick, and then on his right hand he had little balls of curd rice and different types of condiments, like what we call as pickles, right? So each small ball was having different type of pickle. And Krishna said like, okay, you know what? He was about to eat, and then he said, no, let me go and find. So now what actually happened was, Brahma, who was watching all this event, he saw this Agasura, who was a terror for even the Devas, and he saw how this little boy was able to effortlessly get rid of this Agasura. So Brahma said, you know what, this can't be the little boy. What is this little boy thinking? He wants to be that famous? Now you have to understand that only on Brahma's prayer, Krishna came here. But the thing went into Brahma's head that he got confused that, hey, this is a little boy. So what he did was he came back and took all the calves, and when Krishna went and searched and all the calves are missing, he came to report, hey, all calves are missing. He came back and saw none of the kids are there. Now this became like a bigger problem. Now Krishna immediately realized this is Brahma who is doing all this circus. So he realized what he should do. So immediately Krishna took all the forms of different Gopa boys. He became the calves, he became the sticks all the Gopa boys were having. Exactly everything same, down to the last minute molecule. When we say Sarvam Vishnumayam or Sarvam Krishnamayam, this is an incident when we can understand that. Literally it means that, because Krishna was all pervading throughout. Now on that day our friend Balarama was probably absent. He didn't know what happened. So when all the kids came back to their respective house, no one knew any difference. The beautiful thing was, only difference was, suddenly all the parents were having extra love for their own children. Why? All was only Krishna. And then suddenly the cows started giving extra milk for their calves. Why? Because that is also Krishna only. Our Balarama Anna is very famous for not only Krishna is Anna, he is Anna for all of us only. So our Balarama Anna, what he did, one day he said, something fishy is happening, Krishna. You know, how come everybody is having so much affection? Look at normally something will happen, right? Like mom will say like, hey, why are you late? Why are you always roaming with that Krishna or Balarama? Some drama would be happening. But now for one full year, drama is different. Only Krishnamayam. Everything is like only love. Everything is only so nice. But Krishna just smiled it away. So what happened? All this happened only for a moment in Brahma's time. Like a fraction of a second. Fraction of a second. But in the human life, it took one full year. What really happened in that 1 second in Brahma's head was, Brahma got so confused that I took all the boys and all the calves. So there should be no boys and calves with Krishna. But I find an exact copy with him. So what he got confused was, which is original, which is duplicate. See, Brahma's confusion is in different level. So now suddenly he realized, oh my God, this is all Krishna Maya. And immediately he comes down and he starts singing. You know, whenever Brahma's favorite pastime is, whenever he realizes his mistake or whenever he amazes himself with a wonderful insight about Bhagavan, he starts singing Stuti. Same thing happened with Prahalada, right? He was shivering, he couldn't go close to Narasimha. So when he asked Prahalada, go and talk to Narasimha on our behalf. So when Prahalada did his stuti and Narasimha was very happy, after the anger and rage calmed down a bit, Brahma started stuti. In Ramayana also, when Sita had Agni Pravesha, when Brahmadi Devatas came, first thing Brahma's thought was he remembered deja vu. Hey, this happened in Prahalada Avatara in Narasimha Avatara, we don't want again another Narasimha. We want Rama as Rama only. So he started doing stuti. Hey, do you know who you are, Rama? You are Sarveshwara. You are this, you are that. Rama said, man, this fellow, I give drama dialogue and this fellow is not even following. He said, I am only Rama, son of Dasratha. What more do you want me to say? I don't understand what you are talking. The minute Rama said that, Shiva got the cue and he said, hey Rama, look, your father Dasratha is there. And then the story goes that direction. So, why I said that was Brahma loves to do stuti of Mahavishnu whenever he gets a chance. Now, what does this Brahma represent? This Brahma, now before, let's complete the story. He did the stuti, and after he did the stuti, then the kids all came back, normal kids came back, all the Krishna forms of the kids and calves disappeared. Now they all went home, and to the kids it was only a fraction of a second. They were all in Brahmaloka, right? It was a fraction of a second. They didn't even realize that. But when they came here, they start like, you know what happened? Today there was a big Asura. He was like a python with the mouth open. And you know what Krishna did? He went and expanded himself. Now, you know, like the biggest, like now what we are doing is we sit and gossip, we sit and watch this stupid TV or whatever media, right? But in those days, if you and I were even lucky enough to touch that Brajabhumi, you know, the only thing you and I would be talking, you know what Krishna did today? You know how he did this leela, you know how he did that leela, you know how he ate butter, you know how he stole that butter from that house. That's all they did. No wonder those gopas and gopis were literally rishis in those forms. So let's not forget that. Anyways, this Brahma represents our buddhi. Now what Brahma, this buddhi does, it is thinking it is the top dog. So this buddhi says, hey, I will go and find the bottom of Bhagavan. Remember that story when Shiva takes a form of a linga that never starts and ends. So Brahma went up and Vishnu went in the form of Varaha. They tried to search the end, but they couldn't. Same way here, the buddhi jumps in and tries to understand and argue itself, hey, you know what? I will find who this Bhagavan is. But once it starts finding its limitation, what does it do? How does it? So first of all, that buddhi is associated with Bhagavan. So there is a dharmic connection, there is a Bhagavan connection, just like Brahma did. And then at that point, the buddhi realizes, no way I can fathom this, and it starts doing a stuti. Many of us may not have started our lives as hardcore bhaktas or anything. For example, Swami Chinmayananda, one ardent atheist, committed atheist, more hardcore atheist than all the idiots whom we will find in clubhouse today. But once you make that contact, then the next 30 years he is sitting and spreading the message of Bhagavad Gita around the world. So same way, once our connection with Bhagavan happens, immediately we start singing the praise of that Bhagavan. So it is only for that Brahma only Krishna came here. But immediately it became ulta in his head, it went to the head. So buddhi is important, but buddhi alone is not going to take you to Bhagavan. You may be the most smartest, intelligent person on planet Earth. Your IQ may be like 10 times higher than even the Mensa chart. But what is really the key here? Once you come in connection with Dharma, Satsanga, Bhagavan, any of that manifestation of any of those, then what happens? You start knowing your limitations and you start understanding, oh my God, I cannot do this. When rishis themselves are saying that I cannot explain that level, when Vedas are saying I cannot explain that level, so what can a person with half-baked training and filled with ahankara and mamakara gonna do? Nothing. Then came another asura. His name was Dhenukasura. So for picturizing, Krishna was 6 years old. Now he has graduated. Graduated to what? Now he is allowed to graze the cows. That's like a very special graduation for the Gopas. Only little calves were allowed. Now Krishna is in the big boys league. He is allowed to take the cows. One day, and also what happens, because they have cows, their range also is extended. They could go further, like they could go further than the normal range they were allowed. So one day they came across a palm grove, and lot of wonderful sweet smelling palms were there all over the ground. But they remember Krishna's, there were some senior kids too. So they were all afraid. They said like, hey, you know what, we are not supposed to go there. What happened in that particular palm grove, there was a group of donkeys. These were basically asuras who were cannibals. So what they did was, whoever came that way, they will not let anyone enjoy. They will lure them with this sweet smelling palm fruits, but anyone came, they will be killed and eaten. So what Krishna did, Dhenuka means like the donkey, ass, right? Now what happened, Balarama said, hey, who is going to stop us from taking this? See, Balarama is like like a rebel without a cause, or maybe like that. You say don't do this, that's the first thing he will do, at least in these kind of cases, right? So that's why I said Balramanna is a very interesting character, and Balramanna is very beloved, especially when you see the young Balramanna. As he grew elder, Balramanna, once he went to Dwaraka, he started doing a lot of reverse gear, because he wanted to get Subhadra married to Duryodhana. Then he tried to get then he married his daughter to Duryodhana's son. So he did all reverse gear, and he remember what he did in the 18th day. So he had a soft corner for Duryodhana. So that was his drawback. But anyway, back to our story. So Balramanna said, hey, all of us will go and eat these fruits. So he went and started shaking the trees, and all the boys were carrying this. So the sound of all these falling fruits woke up the Dhenukasura. He came and he started kicking, and he wanted to kick and kill Balrama. So Balrama took hold of his hind legs as he was trying to kick, and he whirled him to death, and he threw him, and more palm fruits fell. Now all Dhenuka Sura's servants and relatives, all of them are in the form of a donkey only. They all came, and Krishna and Balrama had a nice fun picking all these guys and throwing them, and it was a lot of fun for them. Now what does this Dhenuka Sura represent in our life? Now I have outlined a lot of these informations in detail in the blog article that is pinned on the top. So folks who are interested can go to that article. But anyway, Dhenukasura represents miserliness. Like people like to hoard things, no one want to share with anything, that selfishness, only I should be good, others should not be happy. That miserliness, that coveting nature that I want to have, what do we say? In our normal thing, we say like you are coveting like a donkey. So that is like a donkey like quality, and that is why we can visualize such quality in the form of a donkey. Now, a real donkey may not be behaving in that way. It is only a figurative speech, right? It's only like what is it, like a lot of proverbs that we have, they are only to indicate the idea. Now here, the idea that these asuras specifically highlighted in Srimad Bhagavatam, that these are cannibals, that tells the quality. If a person is selfish, what happens? They devour the peace of mind of all the near and dear, right? Let's say you imagine a person who is selfish. What will happen? That person is going to cause problem, heartache for all the people around in their family and friend circle, right? So one must not forget that. Then we will come to, we have few more asuras to deal with. We are dealing with all the asuras, and we may skip a couple of them, but we try to cover all the main ones. Okay. The next one is Kaliya or Kalinga, as we say in South, right? There was this huge snake, and this snake had 5 hoods. And anything that came in touch with that, like there was an oxbow lake. You know what an oxbow lake is? Like when the river is bending and flowing and things like that, it cuts off itself from the river, and a lake is formed. Imagine like a snaking river. So the river leaves that path and a lake is left. That is called an oxbow lake. So this lake was, during the flood season, there will be a connection to the river. Other time it will be in the dry season, it will be like a lake. That kind of thing. Visualize something like that. So anything in that was poisonous. Just because the snake lived, it was so poisonous. And one day what happened? Some Gopa boys and some cows accidentally went to that lake, and everything died. Minute Krishna saw them, they were all revived by Krishna's glance only. Imagine what Krishna can do if he glances our way. So we have been hiding, putting all sorts of junk. We have put 2 gatekeepers, Ahankara and Mamakara, to prevent Krishna's grace and glance falling on us. That is the level of our IQ. It is in the negative. Okay. So we have to overcome that. So what Krishna did was, he thought of one day early morning, next day early morning, without telling anyone, especially Balram, he went straight. You know why Balram? Balram is what? Adisheshamsa. I don't know if Krishna thought, you know what, if I try to go and kill this snake, Adishesha may come and take his side. We see that trend in Balrama, right? He takes the support of the wrong cause. So maybe he is also snake, so he may take the support of that. So Krishna went without anybody's knowledge. And by the time they realized where Krishna went, he had already jumped into that water. And Krishna was at that time wrestling with Kaliya. Now what happened? The Gopas and Gopis, already the word spread like fire, faster than WhatsApp and Facebook connectivity. Because something is happening to Krishna, right? The entire life of that Gokula and Vrindavana is revolving around only Krishna, nothing else. The entire Brajabhumi's heartthrob is only Krishna. And now Krishna is jumped into the water fighting the snake. They don't know. They all want front row seats. Now what happened? Vasudeva comes and he wants to jump into the water. There he saw, Yashoda saw that and she is fainted. Now everybody has to be kept safe from the water. So Balarama said, hey, everybody get back. Don't worry about this. You guys are really, really blessed to even have front row seats and see this. Even Devas cannot see this. Now just watch. Now Krishna took hold of this Kaliya and he started dancing. He started dancing like he is the original dance master. You don't see, you want to see another dance, that dance you don't want to see, that is Shiva's Tandava. That happens during the Pralaya. We don't want that dance. But this dance you want to see. There is no dance that comes close. Probably Rasa Leela, I don't know, but this solo dance is unbeatable. Krishna is dancing, and in the process of dancing, he left so many. There is a Srivatsa mudra on his feet. Wherever the Srivatsa mudra was touched, he had an impression. He left the sign of his insignia on that snake. Now the snake was fighting, but it was furiously hurt. Now I'm literally seeing this as a movie in front of me. I hope I can communicate that what I am seeing in my head to you. So all the wives of this Kaliya snake, they said, hey Krishna, please show some grace on us. We will do whatever you want. Just spare this guy. So what happened? This Kaliya was afraid of Garuda. Garuda had the snakes as his food. So when Garuda goes everywhere and he was eating all types of snakes, this snake escaped and came here. But since it came here, by its very nature it was poison. So all the people and cows and animals were all affected by that. Now because of the Srivatsa mudra, it is a mark telling that, hey, this is sanctified. So don't touch my bhakta, is the message Bhagavan is giving to Garuda. What has this story got to do with you and me? The 5 hoods of Kaliya, we should know this, represent the 5 senses that are run away, that don't follow any dharma, there is no regulation, and if you just go after whatever the senses are attracted to, what will it lead you to? It will only lead you to all the world of sense objects and keep you in its toxic influence. You may think it is doing good, it may be bad or whatever, but senses by themselves don't know anything more. So there is even a song in Tamil that says the same thing, like if you are going behind the senses and if the senses are following your mind and if your mind is going behind that, your buddhi is following behind it, what happens? You are leading yourself to automatic destruction, self-destruction. So what is the Bhagavan's imprints, the footprints tell? It forces the senses with every stamp on that snake. It says, you follow dharma, you follow dharma. The snake is fighting. The snake of Kaliya, the senses, they are fighting us. But every time you stamp it and regulate it, dharma, 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 you are following dharma. Now what happens? That toxicity dies out. Now when the senses and the sense objects are given that same treatment by dharma, they don't wreak the same poison. And we can see that in our own lives. Now Kaliya is a reminder that our life that has gone amok without a dharmic root, that is what happens. It wreaks poison for ourselves and for everyone around. So to answer the age-old question a lot of folks are repeatedly asking, if I am a good person, will I go to Swarga or get moksha? You are only a good person by the worldly standard, not by dharmic standard. So when you and I become a dharmic person, then only we are going to be a good person. Till that time, you and I may be doing seemingly okay deeds, but we are still driven by our senses. Now, let's look at one of the last asuras we want to look at, Pralambasura. This guy again, remember, every asura who comes, he studies the mistakes of what happened earlier. He improvises and he tries to do something different. So one day this Pralambasura came. What he did was, he remember that one asura came as Vatsasura, like a calf. Now this asura understood that Krishna loves the Gopas, these little Gopa boys. So he took a form of a Gopa and suddenly appeared. Now everybody knew, you are in a small community in a village, if there are like 20 people, if you have 50 people, 100 people, you will know everyone. So Krishna knew what was happening. So what he suddenly became super friendly with this guy. Now everybody is confused. Hey, this fellow is not even our gang. We have never seen this fellow, but he wants to go wherever he wants. So what he did was, Krishna gave the feeling to that guy that, yeah, we are part of your plan. We are completely fallen for it. So he wanted to give that impression to Pralambasura. So again Krishna said, hey, whatever Krishna says is whatever is the rule of the day there. He told all the kids, let's play a game. And he said, I will call the team. You know, like how many of you played street cricket? Usually one or two strong guys will be there, in that relatively strong guys who have this captain kind of skills. And they will say, they will pick the boys. They will say, I will take this fellow, you take this fellow, I will take this fellow, you take this fellow. And you form a team. So same way Krishna said, Krishna and Balarama like team captain. One side Balarama, one side Krishna. And what happened? They said, this is the game we are going to play. The losing team will have to carry the other person on the opposite side. Now what happened? Never in the history till that time Krishna ever lost any game. That day Krishna lost. Balaram team won. So they were all like, yay, great, we defeated Krishna. So according to the rules of the game, they said like the losing team will have to pick up. So Krishna immediately went and picked some Sridhama, and another person picked somebody. Everybody picked. Only Balarama Anna was left. So Pralambasura said, I will have to carry this Balarama. Now Krishna did not tip off anything. He just let what this fellow Asura will do. Now this Pralambasura thought, I came for the gold medal. At least I got a silver medal. Let me go and be happy. Let me take off this at least one guy, and then we will come back and think of Krishna. So what happened? He started taking Balarama farther and farther and farther and farther, closer to the forest. And Balarama thought, our goal is just to go to the tree and come back. But we have already gone 2 times that distance, and this fellow, why is this fellow running like crazy? And we have never seen this guy. Now Balarama is thinking fast. He immediately realized this is some Asura only. So he immediately gave him a huge blow on his head, and that fellow changed his shape and he died. What does Pralambasura refer in our life? Pralambasura refers to greed and deception. What did this in what do you say in long person? What do you say in Hindi? Lambu, right? So this person was pralambu. He was like, so what is it, like he was pushing the limit. Why? If he wanted to just kill, if he went 2 times the distance, he would have just been happy. But he wanted to go so deep so nobody will find the trace, and he wanted to come back for Krishna. So he is prolonging. And this Asura was carrying faster and faster Balama away from Bhagavan. Now what happens when we develop greed? The mind gets, or selfishness or deception, it starts separating us away from Bhagavan further and further. And that is where, if you have that Daivi guna like Balarama, you are going to ask a question. Hey, what is this situation? Bhagavan is there, I am so far. Why is it my situation, there is a wedge between me and Bhagavan? What is this direction? And I am going negative direction faster than I want. You do a vichara, you do a introspection, and you give the knockout punch to that bad guna. Now let's come to our main villain, at least in the bala leela times. Kamsa, Mama Kamsa, right? So our Mama Kamsa went through a seesaw. Finally he put Ugrasena, his father, only in jail, the Raja, and took over the rule. He put Krishna's mother Devaki and father Vasudeva into the prison. Remember, Nanda and Yashoda are taking care of Krishna. So throughout the childhood, Devaki and Vasudeva never got the chance. So now what happened? Krishna, Kamsa said, hey, we need to come with a plan. I am out of all my asuras. We will bring him straight to the capital Mathura and we will finish him up. So he got a Kovalaya Pita, a giant elephant to kill him, trample Krishna and Balarama. They took care of it. And then he also had Mushtika and Chanura, 2 wrestlers of evil fame, and Krishna killed them also. But this is the funniest thing. When Krishna wanted to go and kill our Kamsa Mama, what happened was, Kamsa Mama literally hardly gave a fight. You can say he even died out of fear in heart attack. Of course, Kamsa Mama also got moksha, because he was non-stop thinking about Krishna for several years only out of fear. So we already gave a talk on that. However you approach Brahman, whether in whichever shape or form, you will get the same effect. But doesn't mean you want to become a Kamsa, because you and I will not reach that level. So Krishna, thus what happened, all the different asuras put a fight. That's the interesting point to see. All the asuras put a fight, starting from Putana to Pralambasura, they fought one way or the other with Krishna. But Kamsa buckled up like a pussy. So what happened? Why? That's an interesting thing to ponder. See, this samsara is sustained only because of all these negative characters we saw, right? From avidya, like Putana, like the emotions, like Trinavarta, and pretentiousness, all these different qualities we saw in the different asuras. That is the only reason you are finding this samsara floating around. When you do sadhana and you overcome each and every single negative trait with a fierce determination, constantly thinking about Bhagavat Vichara, Atma Vichara, and always remain as Atma Rama. That means you are always self-contained. You are not going chasing different desires and things like that. Then what happens? You are narrowing a noose literally around the neck of samsara. So every negative quality you win, you get that much closer to killing off or chopping off this samsara of Kamsa. So one by one we look at ourselves and we start knocking each and every single quality, negative quality, and eventually what is going to happen? You and I are going to get rid of this samsara. It will not be as powerful as you and I think. Once you have taken care of all the things that is buttressing and supporting samsara. So this way, the entire bala leelas of Krishna is literally like a spiritual laboratory for each one of us to look deep within us. And once we look within us, we are going to find that we have all these asuras in our payroll, and we start challenging them with the help of Bhagavan, with the help of Satsanga, with the help of Shastras, with the help of Guru's grace. And then we start developing good qualities like bhakti, jnana, vairagya, viveka and things like that. Thus start cleansing our heart, cleansing our intellect, and start recruiting those Daivi qualities in our payroll and start kicking the Asuric qualities. So these Asuric qualities are like a given as like a signpost. You know, like you suppose you are going closer to the edge of a cliff. They say, hey, warning, cliff 1 more mile. You ignore that. Cliff half mile. You ignore that. Cliff 1/4 mile. You ignore that. You are just seconds away from the cliff. So that is the story of our spiritual journey. Now what we are doing is, at every level you start turning away from the cliff and you start going further and further and further. You climb off of that cliff totally, and then you make sure that nobody goes that side. You put a warning post, don't even go there. And that is the story what these Krishna's bala leelas are kind of reminding. Now, I am not reducing the story to just a metaphor, but the genuine idea is what is the lesson you can take and connect it to our life. So, did Vyasa really mean this metaphor? I have no way to say that. But you can definitely connect the dots back to us. So once you take care of all these asuras, then we can enjoy that Krishna's presence, continuous presence, non-stop, incessant connection, 24/7. And we also must understand that the fact that so many people are sitting here early morning, listening to some satsanga like this, what does that tell you? That Krishna's grace is there on you and me and everyone here, just like Krishna's grace was on the Gopa boys and the Gopa girls, and everybody were protected by his divine grace. So also we will be completely protected from our own tamasic thoughts, our own vasanas, our own karma phalas of the past, and we will find that Krishna's blessings are continuously there. Every time now you crack open Bhagavatam or somebody tells you Bhagavatam or you listen to Bhagavatam, you are going to now start looking for a pattern. You are going to look for what is in between the lines. What is in between the lines is much more precious than what is only in the lines. So, with those thoughts, let me again pray to the Kamala Charana of Sri Krishna and thank him for this wonderful grace to give a little bit of glimpse of what we can get if we can literally take one step back from our tamoguna. We have so much amount of wisdom that is there due to Krishna's grace. May that grace be there on all of us. With those words, let me end today's talk. Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Shri Rama.